You know me, I want to be fair to everybody. So I want to be fair to the Dallas Cowboys' efforts in the offseason. And I want to be fair to ESPN, which rips the Cowboys for having a top 10, no, wait a minute, a bottom 10. Top 10 team, maybe, bottom 10 offseason. Mike Fisher reporting from Frisco, home of the Dallas Cowboys, getting ready for another round of OTAs. But first, let's do an evaluation of the Cowboys roster, and let's tell it like it is. There's no way that this roster is as good as it was 4 months ago. There's no way that this roster is as good as it was a year ago. The difference is, of course, in those two evaluations is we didn't know what they had a year ago. We didn't know what they had in Micah Parsons. We didn't know what they had in Curse, just to name two guys. So, moving on to the now. Dallas absolutely getting roasted by Bill Bidwell of ESPN, who does a good job, a really interesting job in his evaluations. And he's a numbers crunching, advanced stat kind of guy, and that's okay. But as he whips through his thoughts on what went right and what went wrong, we thought we'd look at his thoughts and give you a top 10 on our thoughts through the prism of Bill's thoughts. His views leave him ranking Dallas as having the 9th worst offseason of all 32 clubs. So here's his thoughts and then a top 10 grouping of ours. Bidwell, what went right? Cowboys brought back several key players. Re-signed Gallup, retained Dalton Schultz. Nice low-cost ad in James Washington. Restructured DeMarcus Lawrence's deal, though they had to guarantee $30 million to do so. Curse comes back on what amounts to a one-year, $5 million deal. Leighton Vander Esch returns 1 year, $2 million. Bill writes, I like their economical move for Dante Fowler. They draft Tyler Smith at a position where they usually have success, and they may have lucked out by losing Randy Gregory. Bidwell then adds, clearly they wanted to sign Gregory, and it's never a good look when you announce it and then it doesn't happen. And then he talks about Dallas's cap gymnastics, forcing the team to part with Amari Cooper. My preference, Bidwell writes, would have been to keep Cooper. Okay, now to our top 10. And we do this again. We try to be respectful of what the Cowboys were trying to do, and we try to be respectful of what ESPN is trying to do. Number one, I think Dallas overpaid on Michael Gallup. I don't think there was a bidding war on Michael Gallup that was going to result in somebody paying him while he rehabs his knee what the Cowboys paid him. So, good player, great guy, hope it works. But no round of applause from me on that one. Number two, I think Dallas overpaid on Dalton Schultz. I think there's ways to be productive at tight end at half the cost of Dalton Schultz. And now that they have the price set by the Cleveland deal, now doing a Dalton Schultz long-term deal, well, now that thing's $14 million a year in Cleveland. It's a $64 million contract. It just seems, and again, no disrespect to Dalton Schultz, who has made himself into a very productive player, that just seems excessive to me and unnecessary. Item number three, I've heard from so many people inside the Star and now people in Pittsburgh who endorse James Washington's upside that I'm going to endorse that strongly too. A high character guy who maybe fell into disfavor because he had some drops early in his career and then they never quite got around to discovering what he could do. So yes, James Washington, thumbs up. Item four, I need to relook at this. I don't see any particular problem with Tank Lawrence's contract. So I'm not sure why we're pointing out some red flag there. I don't get it. I'll dig around and ask around. Item five, Barnwell is right about pointing out the second-year escapability of Curse's contract, but I don't think that's going to happen. He would be a $5 million 29-year-old next year. I don't see any reason to make a big deal out of the escapability. It's a fact, but I don't think it's a factor. Item six, and we haven't talked near enough about this because I was kind of told to keep a lid on the numbers. But now everybody's got the numbers out there, and so the lid is off. They stole Leighton Vander Esch, and it's too bad for him. Source tells me that Pittsburgh was very close to giving him $8 million. An $8 million a year deal. I don't know for many years. And he ends up here on $2 million. The Cowboys got him for 1/4 of the price that the Steelers might have been willing to pay. And this is a good, he didn't turn out to quite be Brian Urlacher, did he? At least not yet. So he's not Brian Urlacher. This is a good quality starting linebacker in the NFL who knows the ropes around here, knows this system, gets a chance to play for a defensive coordinator, the same one from the previous year, for the first time in his NFL career. The Dalton Schultz thing can absolutely work. Flat out steal. Item 7. Barnwell might be right about Gregory, but I'm not going to give the Cowboys credit because they lost Randy Gregory. They tried to get him. They prioritized getting him. And then, bottom line, blew it. That is not going to be painted as a positive around here. We can do the Dante Fowler thing, and I will. But you don't get credit for being smart when you bumbled into your good fortune. That's not smart. That's just lucky. Maybe they'll be lucky on how the Randy Gregory thing turns out. Item 8. He is going to be right about Fowler, and I've said it for a long time, and I've said it thanks to friend of the show, Dan Quinn. Quinn is very excited to reunite and get the best out of a guy who in Fowler was not that long ago an NFL star. Item 9, on Tyler Smith. If you believe the Cowboys draft board and Tyler Smith being 16 on it, how can you disagree with the pick? That would mean you disagree with Will McClay's evaluation of Tyler Smith as a football player. And that would be a dangerous thing for you to do. As Bidwell points out, offensive line drafted high, Cowboys usually get those right. And then item 10, the Amari Cooper thing. And this is going to be around because I think Cleveland's going to be the spotlight this year with Deshaun Watson, as long as he's not in NFL jail. You're going to hear a lot about Cleveland. You're going to see a lot of the Browns. I think you're going to see a lot of Amari Cooper highlights, I think. And on paper, that's going to make this Cooper trade for a 5th-round pick look even more dopey. And I don't disagree. On paper, this looks like one of the lopsided trades, the most lopsided trades in Cowboy history. Traded a 4-time Pro Bowler who's, 27? For a 5th-round pick? But if you follow what we do here, and if you read CowboysSI.com, Bill Bidwell, you really should follow what we do here and read CowboysSI.com. It would give you one more glimpse of depth into the why. This wasn't just about $20 million. This was about dissatisfaction inside the building over the effort that Amari Cooper sometimes gives. And they made a decision. Are we going to give $20 million? Are we going to make him one of our top 10 players if we don't trust his effort? Now, you can disagree with the effort thing, and you did when we first pointed this out. And I'm sure there's other people in the building who disagree with the characterization of Amari Cooper not always giving effort. But the decision makers looked at it, and they looked at film of the 49ers game, and they said, he's not trying hard enough. That's not a top 10 player on my roster. That's not a $20 million player on my roster. So that was part of the decision. Did they leverage their way out of getting a better pick? They certainly did. That's a mistake. But losing Amari Cooper doesn't necessarily go down as a mistake yet if you understand all of it. And of course, part of the thing you need to understand is, what does the next generation of wide receivers around here do? Is Jerry Jones right about CeeDee Lamb being better than Amari Cooper? I don't think that's an unfair projection. I think it's a fair projection. In fact, it's something we'll talk about at 7:20 tomorrow morning, Monday morning, breakfast at Fish and Ease. The idea that Amari Cooper is an inferior weapon for the Dallas Cowboys than CeeDee Lamb is going to be. In summary, bottom 10 offseason, I don't know because Barnwell did all 32 teams. That's not what I do. I know that the Cowboys had, relative to what they were trying to do, a relative failed offseason that starts with Randy Gregory and then some of the other issues that we point out here. The Cowboys roster is not better off than it was 4 months ago. Given that, your harsh comments, your skepticism, your cynicism, and getting spanked by ESPN, all deserved, until we start playing some football games and some of these 10 items that I've pointed out clear up, hopefully, for Cowboys Nation for the positive in Frisco with the Cowboys. Mike Fisher, Fish.